No one saw this coming, not even Ric Flair himself. The arena was electric, the air was thick with nostalgia. Ric Flair, the legend, was in the ring, soaking in the adoration of thousands. It was a celebration of a career, of a life lived in the spotlight. The familiar woo chants echoed like a symphony. And then, the music changed. The arena went silent for a split second before the recognition hit. It was her, the Queen, Charlotte Flair. Moments after the crowd roared for her shocking return, she stepped into the ring to embrace her father. And what happened next left the entire WWE universe speechless. Why would the Queen turn on her own father, the man who made her a legend? Tonight, we break down the real reason behind Charlotte Flair's explosive return and, trust me, this changes everything for the Flair family. Let's set the scene. Ric Flair is in the ring, microphone in hand. He's telling stories, laughing. The crowd is hanging on every word. This isn't a confrontation, it's a celebration. He's the father of the industry, and the fans are his family. Then, the music hits. The Titantron touches the Queen. The eruption from the crowd is one of pure joy. Charlotte Flair, after months away, is back. She walks the ramp with that familiar, confident stride, a smile on her face. She enters the ring and the two hug. Father and daughter, the 16-time champion and the woman who redefines the women's division. It's a perfect snapshot. Ric is crying. The fans are crying. This is a moment of pure, unscripted love. Ric hands her the microphone, a symbolic passing of the torch, a sharing of the spotlight. She takes it, raises it, and you can see the adoration in her father's eyes. He is so proud. He steps back, giving her the ring, giving her the moment. He believes this is her homecoming. He believes she is there to stand with him. He, like all of us, was wrong. The camera zooms in on their embrace, a perfect moment frozen in time, just seconds before it was shattered. And then, it happened. It wasn't a sudden, chaotic brawl. It was methodical, cold. Charlotte's smile faded. She looked at her father, who was still beaming. She looked at the microphone in her hand. Then she looked back at Ric, and her expression was one not of anger, but of finality. She didn't just shove him, she struck him. A calculated blow that sent the legend tumbling backward, collapsing to the mat. The arena ... fell silent. You could hear individual gasps. A million woo chants died in the throats of the audience. Ric Flair didn't look like a 16-time champion. He looked like a confused, heartbroken father. He propped himself up on his elbows, his expression asking the one question on everyone's mind. Why? Charlotte circled him. She didn't yell, she didn't pose. She took his custom-made sequined robe, the symbol of his legacy, and threw it down on top of him. The disrespect was agonizing. She stood over him, a towering shadow, and for a long moment, the only sound was the humming of the arena lights. She then picked up the microphone, held it to her lips as if to speak, and simply dropped it. She turned, walked out of the ring, and disappeared up the ramp, never once looking back. She left behind a fallen icon, a broken father, and a universe of fans in stunned, horrified silence. By the next morning, it was everywhere. This wasn't just a wrestling story, this was on mainstream sports networks. It was the lead story on news aggregators. The clip was inescapable. Charlotte Flair attacks her 70-year-old father. The headlines wrote themselves. Commentators who normally debated football scores were now psychoanalyzing the Flair family dynamics. They treated it not as a performance, but as a public family breakdown. Every podcast, every radio show, every sports blog was on fire. The narrative split instantly. Was this a despicable act of disrespect, or was this a calculated move by a performer? The ambiguity made it worse. The WWE's official channels were quiet, simply posting the footage without comment, letting the inferno burn on its own. Anonymous backstage reports began to leak immediately. Ric was blindsided. Charlotte hasn't spoken to anyone. Management is in chaos. The act had transcended the bubble of sports entertainment. It had become a cultural moment, a dark, uncomfortable mirror reflecting our own complicated relationships with family and legacy. The Flair brand, once a beacon of charisma and excellence, was now a trending topic for all the wrong reasons. The question why wasn't just a fan theory. It was a global headline. Inside the WWE universe, the schism was immediate and violent. The Woo chant, for decades a sound of pure joy and respect, was weaponized overnight. At the next event, fans chanted it at Charlotte, not with her. It was now an accusation, a reminder of what she had done. Signs in the crowd read Judas and how could you? But then, a different faction emerged, a vocal minority, and growing. They, cheered her. They saw her act not as a betrayal, but as a liberation. They were the fans who had grown weary of Charlotte's success always being tied to her father's. They saw this as the ultimate statement of independence. She's finally her own woman, they would argue online. She had to kill the past. This wasn't a simple good guy versus bad guy scenario. This was a complex, emotional debate that split households. You were forced to pick a side. Do you stand with the legend, the father, the foundation of the industry? Or do you stand with the queen, the daughter, the future, who just burned that foundation to the ground? The merchandise sales told the story. Ric Flair's retro shirts saw a massive spike in sales, a sign of solidarity. But Charlotte's new darker merchandise sold out, embraced by those who saw beauty in her destruction. We see the spectacle in the ring, but what about the atmosphere backstage? Imagine walking through that curtain. The crew, the producers, the other wrestlers. They all saw what we saw. Reports from backstage describe a scene of complete and utter confusion. Ric Flair is more than just a retired wrestler. He's an institution. He's a mentor to dozens of the men and women in that locker room. He's a living, breathing icon who wanders those halls. And they had all just watched his own daughter humiliate him in the most personal way imaginable. When Charlotte returned backstage, the usual buzz of activity allegedly stopped. No one knew what to say. Was this part of the show? If it was the best-kept secret in history. If it wasn't, then they had just witnessed a family tragedy. The other performers, who operate as a traveling family, were frozen. They are taught to respect the legends. How do they process this? Do they console Rick? Do they confront Charlotte? The incident created a power vacuum. Charlotte, already seen as royalty, now seemed untouchable, isolated by her own actions. She had drawn a line, not just with her father, but with everyone. She was no longer one of them. She was an entity unto herself. The silence in that locker room was louder than any booing crowd. This act went far beyond the arena. This was a call that echoed through the entire Flair family. Rick has other children, other family members who just watched their patriarch, their father, be assaulted by his most famous child. What were those phone calls like that night? The desperate attempts to find out if Rick was okay, physically and emotionally. The confusion and the anger from siblings, from relatives. The Flair name is a dynasty. It's a heavy, complicated blessing. And Charlotte had just taken that legacy and thrown it in the mud. Live for the world to see. This act forces everyone in the family to choose. How do you support your father without condemning your sister? How do you reach out to your sister without feeling like you're betraying your father? The public nature of the attack makes it impossible to heal privately. The entire world is now a spectator to their most intimate family crisis. The pressure of the Flair name has always been immense, but this is different. This isn't a storyline. This is a fracture. A deep seismic crack in the very foundation of the family. The name Flair will never mean the same thing again. The dynasty is at war with itself, and the first shot was fired by its heir apparent. To truly understand why, we have to stop looking at the attack and start looking at the shadow. What is it like to be Ric Flair's daughter? From the very first day Charlotte stepped into a wrestling ring, she was not allowed to be herself. She was, and always would be, compared to the impossible standard of her father. Every championship she won, every main event she was in, there was always an asterisk, a whisper. She's only there because of her name. For years, we watched her try to honor him. She used his signature chop. She adopted the figure-8 leglock as a tribute to his figure-4. She was the perfect, dutiful daughter. carrying the legacy forward. But what if that legacy was a prison? What if the crown she wears felt less like an achievement and more like a cage? This act, this betrayal, may not have been born from hate. It may have been born from desperation, a desperate need to finally, once and for all, be seen on her own. She was trapped. We, the fans, trapped her. Her father, perhaps unconsciously, trapped her. We demanded she be the second coming of the nature boy. We never just let her be the queen. This attack was the only way out. It was a violent public declaration. I am not his daughter. I am me. Let's re-examine Rick's role in this. His love for his daughter is undeniable. He beams with pride at her every accomplishment. But the nature boy gimmick isn't just an act, it's who he is. He needs the spotlight. It's his oxygen. Think about all the times he involved himself in her career. Walking her to the ring, managing her, interfering in her matches. We saw it as a father's support. But how did she see it? What if every time he helped her win, it just reinforced the idea that she couldn't win on her own? Every time he grabbed a microphone at her side, he was stealing a piece of her spotlight, attaching his name to her victory, making it their victory. The shadow she was trying to escape wasn't just in the history books. It was standing right next to her, telling the world how great she was, but reminding them who she belonged to. Imagine the internal conflict. The guilt of resenting the man who gave you everything, but who also wouldn't let you be your own person. This wasn't an attack on her father. This was an attack on her helper. It was the only way to tell him, and the world, I don't need you anymore. Stand aside. The throne is mine, and mine alone. 1 week later, she finally spoke. The arena was bathed in silence, a single spotlight on Charlotte in the middle of the ring. There were no tears, no remorse. Her voice was steady, cold and clear. She said that for her entire life, she had been playing a character. The character was Ric Flair's daughter, a character that we, the fans, and he, her father, had all written for her. A character that was defined by his legacy. A character that was weak, that needed his help, that was validated only by his approval. And on that night, she said, she did not attack her father. She simply ended the storyline. She killed the character of Ric Flair's daughter so that the queen could finally rule. She looked dead into the camera and said her father was a legend because he was willing to sacrifice everything for this business, his health, his family, his life. And to be greater than the legend, her sacrifice had to be even greater. Her sacrifice was the legend himself. It wasn't an attack. It was a coronation. She had to destroy the king to take the throne. She had to break her father's heart to finally win his respect, not as a daughter, but as a peer. The crowd was silent, paralyzed. They had come wanting an apology. Instead, they got a proclamation. This is the story we were told. A story of emancipation. A daughter finally breaking free from an all-consuming shadow. It's a powerful, compelling narrative. It changes everything we thought we knew about the Flair dynasty. But what if it's not the whole story? What if we've all missed the real point? We are talking about Ric Flair, the dirtiest player in the game, the master manipulator, the man who built a career on making you believe exactly what he wanted you to believe. What if Rick knew his daughter was trapped? Prayer. What if he knew the fans would never fully accept her as long as he was standing beside her? What if he knew the only way for her to become the villain, the star, the icon she was destined to be, was for her to do the one unthinkable thing? To destroy him. What if this whole thing was his idea? What if that look of shock on his face wasn't horror, but the ultimate act of a proud father? The final lesson. The lesson that to be a true Flair, to be a true legend, you must be willing to sacrifice anything, including your own family. We think we watched a daughter betray her father. But maybe, just maybe, we watched him give her the ultimate gift, his final, greatest sacrifice, the end of his story, so hers could truly begin.